I am so happy that you're able to join us for this extended interview. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get more killer resources. Hey friend, are you looking to land a remote gig ASAP? Well, did you know that we not only have a ton of online jobs you can apply to on our site, but now we're also sending them straight to your inbox. I'm happy to announce that we will be sending our email subscribers legit online jobs every Wednesday. We have done hours of research, so you don't have to. If you want to be the first one to hear about the remote gigs we find, go to theoffbeatlife.com to subscribe. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back for this extended interview with Mike, where he's going to share how to create passive income by doing real estate. Hey Mike, how are you?
Hey, I am great. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. So before we get to all of your tips and tricks, can you tell us a little bit more about you and why you live an offbeat life?
Well, let's see. I've been traveling full-time for 5 years and almost full-time for 9 years. Just love meeting different people from all over the planet. And I can't even imagine going back to my old lifestyle. I don't know what it would be like to stay put in the same place for like 2 weeks.
Well, that's the dream for most of us, right? And we want to get to the point where Mike is right now. And he's doing a really interesting thing because he's able to create a remote business through real estate. Now, Mike, I know a lot of people, when they think about that, they think that you need a whole lot of money to do this. And it's not obviously for everybody. That's common for everything. But how do you think somebody could start this if they don't know a lot about this industry and they don't have a ton of cash just laying around?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, when I first started, just about 30 years ago, I didn't have any money either. I had student loans and I didn't know anything about real estate either. And we don't have enough time for me to go into the whole story, but I got into it kind of by mistake, it was a really good mistake. Anyway, I ended up buying my first property and the market took off and the rest is history. But the great news is there's people like myself that specialize in helping people who want to create passive income but don't know anything about real estate. So I've got a company that does turnkey investment properties. And what that means is that I've already gone and bought the properties. I've inspected them. I fixed them. I've got tenants in place. And my property management team is already looking after them for you. So you don't need to know the first thing about real estate. That answers your question for people that don't know how. For people that are starting out with not a lot of money, there are different strategies that are you can get in with very, very little cash. So one example of that, there's something called tax deeds. And what that is, if somebody hasn't paid their property taxes in 3 or 4 years, eventually the county is going to put the property up for sale on the auction block to try to recover this property tax money. Because they need that to keep their police force going, their schools open, etc. And I've had some of my students pick up single family homes at these auctions for like $7,000 that are worth, $90, $100, $110,000. And best of all, it doesn't have to be your $7,000. One of the things that I teach people is that if you don't have a lot of resources, you've got to become resourceful. And so one of the things I do is I teach people not just how do you do some of these strategies, how can you go attend these auctions and safely buy these properties, but also how do you go raise the money so that other people are funding your deals. You're using other people's money to go make those profits. And at the same time, creating a win-win where you're obviously the investor putting in the money gets a nice return on their investment. You're happy because you're making money without having any of your own money. And it's just a great win-win. And so, but it really comes down to, like anything else, you've got to get educated. You've got to learn how to do the strategy. There's a number of different ways. There's something called wholesaling. Wholesaling, you're basically putting a property under contract, but instead of closing on it and buying it, you're selling it to another investor who does have the money to buy it. So let's say, for example, you found a property that was $100,000 under market value and you didn't have the money to buy it, but you'd go write a contract on it. You go find another investor, say, listen, there's a property here. You're going to make $100,000 if you go flip it. I want 20,000. I'll sell you the deal and let you do it. So now you just made $20,000, left 80,000 on the table for the next investor. And once again, you just, there's different ways to do deals with no money in real estate. You've just got to get educated on how to do them, and then, put in the time. At first, you got to put in the time. You might have to put in the time if you don't have a lot of money. But once you've got the money, the goal is to stop putting in the time and either build teams around it, let other people do the work for you, or just buy things such as, buy and hold properties and let other people collect the rent for you. And once you get enough buy and hold properties, that money that comes in at the end of every month can fund your lifestyle. And that's exactly, how I get to travel full time, because my properties generate revenue, but it's not me going and collecting the rent. It's not me dealing with tenants. It's not me getting phone calls at 2 a.m. with a leaky toilet. I don't deal with any of that stuff. So no matter where you start, all roads should lead eventually to you not doing the work and basically having the passive income, so that you are basically, living the lifestyle, having the freedom to live whatever lifestyle it is that you love.
So this is really interesting to me because my fiance and I are buying our first investment property, and we're turning it into a duplex, and we're going to do buy and hold. But we're also interested in wholesaling, and he's also trying to do that as we speak. And you're right. There's so many different information that you either learn from people who are knowledgeable like Mike, or you just learn it, you come across, you make mistakes, and then you realize what's happening. And one of the biggest issues right now, well, not really an issue, is that there's just so much competition in specific areas. And also finding those deals can get a little bit tricky. How are you able to go around that, Mike? Or are there specific ways that you've been able to either find deals and go into a market even though it's a little bit competitive? Or do you just go to certain areas that is just investor friendly?
Yeah, well, every market is competitive. It's either competitive or it's not a good market.
Yeah.
If there's opportunity, there will be people there besides you. And so you've got to be able to outmaneuver your competition. So, but to answer your question, one of the things that I do for myself and my students is I go where I think the opportunity is best. And so for me, if I have a choice of going and let's say wholesaling a deal because I don't have the money to buy the house, or if I can go to somewhere like Houston, Texas, which is where I love to do tax deeds, and I can go buy a single family home, just using that one example, $7,000 for a single family home, I'd much rather do that and get the whole piece of the pie instead of just, wholesaling, getting a little piece of the pie. Because ultimately when you wholesale, the investor makes the majority of the money and you make a small piece of it. So one of the things that I do that's different is I do a training where I actually take people to the auctions in Houston, and we spend 4 days together, and I teach them a whole bunch of different strategies. But then I also give them, as you know, I'm into passive income. So I give them access to a team that I've built on the ground in Houston, Texas. And so somebody, I've got clients as far away as Australia that call up my team every month, and my team goes to the auction on their behalf and bids for them. And so you can actually do real estate outside of where you live. Quite often, if you live somewhere that's extremely competitive, like I know you're in New York, which will be extremely competitive and extremely expensive.
That's why we're not doing investing here.
Yes. So you want to go where it makes sense. You want to go where the best returns are. You want to go where the opportunities are easiest. And so, but that involves you having a team. Otherwise, you're going to be flying there back and forth. And that eats up, obviously airfare and hotel and time. That starts to, eat up your profits pretty quick. So you really want to have a team, one, so that they're doing the work, not you. They're doing the heavy lifting for you. And two, so you can now participate in a market that makes more sense without you physically being there. And that's really, one of the secrets to my success is that I don't invest. My turnkey operation is in Atlanta. I've never lived in Atlanta, but I think that's the best market in the United States right now for holding properties. And actually, I have a webinar, which I'll give you access to, and the people listening are welcome to have free access to it. But it talks about why that's such a good market. And if you want to be flipping properties, my favorite place to do that is, at these tax deed auctions in Texas. But you need to know what you're doing. If you go to that auction and you don't know the due diligence steps, you're going to lose all your money. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have a team, you're going to spend a lot of time going back and forth. And so really at the end of the day, the key is to pick the markets that make the most sense, get educated so that you can outmaneuver your competition, and have teams so that you're not trading your time to get these paychecks. You have other people doing most of the work for you. And, if you do it that way, you're going to have much more success than, throwing yourself into the, where all your, there's a lot of competitors who have more experience than you, more money than you, better teams than you. You're always going to go where you have that competitive edge.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different aspects to this, but once you learn, right, all of these things, it just happens. Now, you talked a little bit about tax deeds. How do you find the right states and areas to actually do this in?
Yeah, well, every county across the United States has a way that they deal with delinquent property taxpayers. So every single county has something. Now, some of them, they'll have auctions once a year. They have very, very few properties. The thing about Texas is they have no state income tax. And a lot of people love that, obviously, and a lot of people are moving to Texas because of that. But obviously, the government gets money from somewhere to build roads and keep their schools open, and they're paying their police somehow. And it's not, the politicians aren't digging into their own pockets to get that money. So where that comes from in Texas is from property taxes. And because there's no state income tax, those property taxes are particularly high. They tend to be around 2.6, to around 3% of the property value. So if you can imagine a $300,000 property, paying $6,000 to $9,000 a year in property tax, and if you get, a couple of years behind on that, it's pretty hard to get caught up again. So there's a large supply of them, in Texas, for example. I mean, there's obviously counties all over the U.S. It's just a matter of doing research and calling the county, finding out how they deal with the delinquent taxpayers. Are there auctions? How often are they? How many properties are there? Or you can just listen to me because I've already done that research, and I'll tell you that if you go to Texas, that's kind of a gold mine. There's other places too, but that's my favorite. The auctions are once a month, first Tuesday of every single month. There's a bunch of different counties. Harris County, which is where Houston is. There are so many properties going up for auction every month. And in addition to the tax deed properties, the banks also have their bank foreclosures at the exact same location at the exact same time. So if you are educated and know how to properly do the due diligence, there's so many opportunities every month that if you consistently do the work, you will get some good deals. And so to me, you can either reinvent the wheel and do your own research, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or for me, I like to go and R&D, rip off and duplicate other people, what somebody else has done. And I'm happy with people doing that. There's an abundance. There's more than enough to go around. But my only caution would be don't attend an auction not knowing what you're doing, or there's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many ways you can lose your money. And I see it every single month. Whenever we go to these auctions, we see people that don't know what they're doing, going and making really bad decisions. Then they get a really bad taste in their mouth about real estate and say, oh, real estate's not for me. And it's too bad because, to me, real estate was definitely a game changer in my life. And I know, the people who do it properly, I don't know too many real estate investors that ever quit to go do something else, put it that way, the ones that are successful. So I think that says something. Yeah.
Well, that's a good percentage, right? It's a good percentage of how successful this can be if you actually do it the right way.
Exactly. And that's a key.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one last question. So once you actually buy a property, whether doing the tax deeds or any ways to purchase them, do you actually build the team right there to do it if it's a new location for you, or do you do it remotely?
Well, I've always got teams because, as you know, I've become, I wouldn't say lazy is maybe the right word, but I've become, I delegate everything. And so I will only invest if I find an opportunity, I'm going to build a team ASAP. And so in Houston, for example, I've got, people that go to the auction on behalf of my students. They go and I've got people on my team that can fix the properties. I've got people on my team that can help if you want to flip it. I've got people on my team that can manage it if you want to hold the properties. So I've got a full team that can do everything from start to finish for my clients. But you have to keep in mind that even though you have a team, you still have to be the quarterback to the team. And so my students, I give them the blueprint, the information that they can go make smart choices on what to bid on and how to determine what the maximum bid should be. And then you delegate that to the team. You say, hey, I want to bid on 123 Main Street. My maximum bid is $10,000. And then the team goes and does their magic. And so you still need to be educated. The team can't make the choices for you. You have to make the choices as to what properties fit your strategy. But yeah, I won't invest anywhere unless unless I have teams. And whenever I teach, I always give my students the team. So whether I'm teaching or whether I'm selling one of my turnkey properties in Atlanta to somebody, it always comes with a team, because I don't really want to teach people to be the workaholic that I used to be. I want to teach them how to do minimal amounts of work required to get the result, and still have that balance. Have balance in your life where you're getting to do the things that you enjoy doing. And to me, the main reason we get into real estate is to create freedom. Yet a lot of people, when they do it wrong, they end up creating this big monster that takes up 15 hours of their day every day, and they go to bed all stressed out. And that's not what real estate is here to do for you. It's supposed to give you that freedom. And so I not only teach you how to do it properly, but then I give you the team so that you're not even inclined in any way to go do all the work, because it's so much easier to have somebody else do that for you.
Well, that is really great for us to learn from you, Mike. And if we want to do your webinar, where can we find you?
So I sent a link. So if you can just attach that, that'd be great. But you can also go to my website, which is mikewolfmastery.com. And you can sign up for it there as well. But we'll just give them a link. That makes it a lot easier. And if people need more information, they can always email me, info@mikewolfmastery.com. And wolf is just like the animal, appropriately enough. So mikewolfmastery.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike, for all of the tips that you gave us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
I hope you enjoyed this extended interview with Mike. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get the full interview where he shares how he has been able to travel the world as a remote real estate investor. Have you been thinking about starting a podcast? Well, what are you waiting for? This is the best time to do it. And lucky for you, I have created the most comprehensive ebook to help you start, grow, and monetize your show called How to Create a Profitable Podcast, where I share all of my proven strategies that has allowed me to leave my 9-to-5 to become a full-time podcaster. If you want to learn more, go to howtocreateapodcast.com. Thanks for joining me on this extended interview. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. We can also chat some more on Facebook at The OB Live. I'll talk to you soon.